Hi, everyone, and welcome to our webinar. My name is Marissa Marks, and I am the Marketing Manager here at Trace Security. If you have any questions throughout the presentation, feel free to drop them in the chat, and we'll answer as many as we can at the end during Q&A. We will be sending out the slides and recording to all attendees next week. And to get us started, I want to introduce Trace Security and give you some background on our expertise in information security. With over 21 years in business, Trace Security continues to be a leading provider of cybersecurity and compliance solutions. Our company was founded on February 18th, 2004, as one of the first technology companies to incubate in the Louisiana Technology Park. Our company's mission at its founding was simple: to help banks and credit unions protect their customer and member information and comply with GLBA, FFIEC, and NCUA requirements. Since then, Trace Security has served over 3,000 organizations across the U.S. We maintain a strategic alliance with America's credit unions, which positions us as their exclusive provider of cybersecurity and compliance services. Trace Security's comprehensive portfolio of solutions allows organizations to manage their information security program through IT risk assessments and audits, social engineering, penetration testing, security training, and more. At this time, I'd like to turn things over to AJay Strong and Jordan Kalms, two of our information security analysts who are excited to dive into some next generation cyber attacks with you all today.
Hello, my name is AJay Strong. I've been with Trace Security for about 2 years working as an information security analyst. I'm also a lead instructor for a cybersecurity boot camp, and I'm enrolled at WGU, earning a bachelor's in cybersecurity and information assurance.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jordan Kalms. I started at Trace last year, and before joining the team here, I received my cybersecurity certification from Caltech. I'm CompTIA Security Plus certified, and I received my undergraduate degree from Columbia University.
So we live in a world increasingly reliant on digital technology. The benefits of connectivity are undeniable. However, this interconnectedness also brings many risks. We're all familiar with headlines about common cyber attacks such as phishing, scams, ransomware, and malware. They've kind of become a part of our everyday vocabulary, but what about the threats lurking beneath the surface, the less publicized, more insidious attacks that can be just as devastating? These less common cyber attacks often fly under the radar, catching individuals and organizations off guard precisely because they're not in the forefront of our minds. They exploit vulnerabilities we don't often consider, using clever tactics to bypass traditional defenses. So Jordan and I are going to pull back the curtain on these hidden dangers. We'll explore a range of these less detectable and less talked about attacks, including deepfakes, watering hole, tab nabbing, homograph, cryptojacking, and juice jacking. Our goal here isn't to scare you, but to empower you. By understanding how these attacks work, the vulnerabilities they exploit, and the potential damage they can inflict, you'll be significantly better prepared to defend yourself, your data, and your organization. So now I'm going to hand it over to Jordan, and he's going to start us off with the topic of deepfakes.
Thanks, AJ. So in May of 2023, the Associated Press published an article with the following headline, quote, "Fake image of the Pentagon explosion briefly sends jitters through stock market." The article went on to explain that a picture was spreading on social media showing the Pentagon under a cloud of black smoke. And before a spokesman from the Pentagon was able to issue a statement that the image was fake, the stock market had reacted with an S&P 500 drop of 1/3 of a point, a move that constituted a shift of billions of dollars. Experts later went on to explain that the photo was an example of an AI-generated forgery, and the story was therefore an example of the dangers of that deepfakes pose in the modern information landscape. In the last year, the rate of deepfake attacks has sharply risen, with call centers inundated with fabricated customers seeking refunds or password resets that will allow attackers to take over accounts. According to one estimate, the cost of these attacks reached $1 trillion in 2024 and is only expected to rise. Whether it's audio or visual, the emerging trend is clear. Digital communications can no longer be trusted in the way that they have in the past, and new means of authentication will have to be employed in order to ensure information security going forward. Which brings us to the central question: how can organizations defend against these types of deepfake attacks? And the answer is that although there are emerging technical solutions, one of which is Reality Defender, a software for the automated detection of deepfakes, the human element will be increasingly important going forward. Getting customers on the phone, verifying their identity through the use of MFA, and educating your employees about the dangers of robocalls and increasingly sophisticated phishing emails still constitute the best line of defense against these new types of attacks. And now AJay is going to walk us through the next type of next generation threat, watering hole.
Thank you, Jordan. So yeah, I'm going to talk about this particularly insidious form of cyber attack called a watering hole attack. These attacks are stealthy, targeted, and often difficult to detect, making them a significant threat to individuals and organizations alike. So when you think of a watering hole, imagine a watering hole in the desert where animals gather on a regular basis. Cyber criminals understand this concept and they apply it to the internet. Watering hole attacks are where attackers compromise websites frequently visited by a specific group, aiming to infect their computers with malware. Essentially, it's about waiting where your target is sure to show up. So how this works, first the attacker identifies a website that their target group frequents. This could be anything, an industry forum, a professional association site, or even a popular news outlet. The key is to find a place where their desired victims congregate online. Next, the attacker seeks out and exploits a vulnerability in the target website's security. This might involve hacking into the server, exploiting a code flaw, or using other methods to inject malicious code. They're essentially breaking into the water hole. Now the attacker inserts malicious code into the website, often as a hidden script. This code is designed to automatically download and install malware onto the computers of unsuspecting visitors. So think of it as poisoning the water hole. When a member of the target group visits the compromised website, the malicious code executes. This infection often happens silently without any visible warning. The user may be completely unaware that their computer has been compromised. The malware can vary greatly depending on the attacker's goals. It could be a keylogger to steal passwords, could be ransomware to encrypt files, or it could be a backdoor to provide remote access. The attacker now has a foothold on the victim's system. So just some key characteristics of watering hole attacks is that they are indirect, meaning they focus on compromising a website rather than an individual. And they are also highly targeted, aiming for a specific group, even if the initial compromise affects many people outside of that targeted group. Watering hole attacks are stealthy, often going unnoticed by users. They exploit the trust we place in familiar websites, making them particularly effective. We trust the watering hole, so we don't expect it to be dangerous. In the real world, there was an attack called the Nitro attack, which targeted defense contractors by compromising websites related to the defense industry. And this highlights how these attacks can target specific industries. There was also Operation Snow Globe, which targeted human rights activists by compromising websites related to human rights issues. And this shows how watering hole attacks can be used to target specific groups based on their activities or beliefs. And finally, the Sony Pictures hack, while much debated, potentially involved a watering hole attack, which demonstrates the potential scale and impact of these types of attacks. So how can we protect ourselves? First, you want to regularly update your operating system, web browser, and other software. Patching vulnerabilities is crucial. Use reputable antivirus and anti-malware software. This will help detect and remove any malware that may have been downloaded. Be wary of any unusual behavior on websites that you visit. Unexpected pop-ups, downloads, or changes in website appearance can be red flags. Consider using a web browser with built-in security features such as sandboxing and anti-phishing protection. These features can add an extra layer of security. And if you own a website, Implement robust security measures, including regular security audits and vulnerability patching. You want to protect your watering hole from being poisoned. And now I'm going to pass it back to Jordan to discuss another prevalent threat called tab nabbing.
Thanks, AJ. So tab nabbing is a computer exploit that persuades users to submit their login credentials to popular websites by impersonating those sites and convincing the user that the site is genuine. It is a type of social engineering attack which manipulates inactive web pages left open in your browser. So an attack like this would start when a user clicks on an apparently harmless link, which opens another browser tab within an active browser, Firefox, Mozilla, Edge, something like that. And the new page might look legitimate. So a user might decide to leave it open and check other pages. While the user focuses on other tabs, a malicious JavaScript link modifies the content of that original tab. The script can change the URL, it can change the page content, and transform that original page into a fake login page that looks like a commonly used website, such as an email service, a social network, and/or a payment platform. When the user returns to that tab, they may think that they're on the original login page and without suspicion, re-enter their login credentials, at which point the attacking script would record their personal data and send it to the attacker. Tab nabbing is effective because it leverages a combination of psychological and behavioral factors. The trust that a user develops toward a page that's open, and this tendency we have to keep multiple tabs open and not to check the URL before re-entering our data. Many users don't suspect that an open tab could undergo invisible changes on the back end, and very few of us are in the habit of verifying the URL each time we go back to a page. So by exploiting the modern browsing habit of keeping a dozen tabs open at once, tab nabbing seeks to leverage that high level of trust and comfort in order to elicit our personal information. So how can we defend against this type of attack? The first thing is you can always give that URL another look and verify that it's the page that you're actually meant to be on. At the very least, the start of that URL should say HTTPS, S for security, and then : / / That's the correct format for a valid page. You can avoid clicking on suspicious links, those from untrustworthy sources, and you can use security extensions in your browser. These are extensions that block unauthorized JavaScript and help prevent the modifications of open active pages. Another thing you can do is update your browser frequently. A lot of browsers include this type of anti-malware inherent in the updates, and so pushing those security patches on a regular basis is important. And last but not least, you can close your unused tabs. A good practice is to minimize the number of open tabs you have on your computer, especially those containing sensitive data or login pages that are going to require personal login information. And now AJay is going to walk us through a homograph attack.
Thanks, Jordan. All right, so homograph attacks, also known as homoglyph attacks, are a type of cyber attack that exploits the visual similarity of characters from different alphabets to create deceptive domain names or URLs. These attacks can be used for phishing, malware distribution, or other malicious purposes. So let's start by understanding how homograph attacks work. Attackers identify characters in a legitimate domain name that have visually similar counterparts in other alphabets. For example, the Latin letter A and the Cyrillic letter A look almost identical. The attacker registers a domain name where some or all of the characters have been replaced with their homograph counterparts. This creates a domain name that looks very similar to the legitimate one. The attacker uses the deceptive domain name to create phishing emails or websites that mimic the legitimate ones, and they trick users into visiting these sites or clicking on links in the emails. Once users are on the fake site, they may be tricked into entering sensitive information, such as usernames, passwords, or credit card details. Alternatively, the site may be designed to download malware onto the user's computer. So here are a couple of examples to illustrate homograph attacks. You can see on this slide, we have paypal.com and paypal.com, but the lowercase l in the legitimate domain name has been replaced with an uppercase I in the fake domain name. Then we have google.com versus google.com. In this instance, the lowercase e in the legitimate domain name has been replaced with a Cyrillic e in the fake domain name. And you can see when you look at these, you can't tell the difference at all. So how can we prevent and mitigate this type of attack? For one, you should always avoid clicking on links in emails or messages from unknown or suspicious sources. Instead, manually type the URL into your browser or use bookmarks. Look for any unusual characters or misspellings in URLs before entering any sensitive information. Consider using a web browser with built-in security features such as sandboxing and anti-phishing protection. Regularly update operating system, web browser, and other software to patch security vulnerabilities. Adding an extra layer of security, such as two-factor or multi-factor authentication, can make it much harder for attackers to access your accounts, even if they are successful in tricking you into giving them your credentials. So although homograph attacks are sophisticated and can be difficult to detect, you can protect yourself from falling victim to these attacks by staying vigilant and following best practices for online security. And I will hand it back to Jordan so he can tell us about cryptojacking.
All right, so we're going to start here with an example of a cryptojacking attack in which a computer or network is exploited in order to mine cryptocurrencies. In fall of 2024, the U.S. Agency for International Development, USAID, learned that it was hit by a cryptojacking incident. The agency was notified by Microsoft that a global administrator account on its network had been breached through a password spray attack, a brute force attempt to enter a system by guessing a series of passwords. The account was then used to create a second account, and both of these accounts were used to begin crypto mining processes through USAID's AJay account. The result was around $500,000 in cloud compute service charged to the agency. Like most malicious attacks, the motive for these types of cryptojacking attacks is profit. But unlike other threats, this specific type of threat is designed to remain completely hidden from users. Cryptojacking malware can lead to slowdowns, it can lead to crashes, and it can chew up the computational resources of an organization. This can create both direct and indirect losses for the organization as computing resources are drained, data security is compromised, and the loss of trust or reputational damage ensues in the press afterwards. Besides the unauthorized consumption of compute, cryptojacking can also contribute to the aging of hardware by overworking processing cores, including cores belonging to discrete graphic cards, enabling malicious extraction of cryptocurrency. These costs are compounded because cryptojacking attacks tend to go undetected for several months, and it's often difficult to determine the true cost overall. So how can organizations defend against this type of attack? Number one, you can instruct your IT staff to be trained in how to detect and understand these types of attack, primarily recognizing the initial signs and being prepared to respond immediately with further investigation. Number two, educating your employees. IT teams rely on employees informing them when computers are overheating, when computational resources are being chewed up, when things are starting to slow down. And so employees should have some sense of how to avoid both clicking on malicious links that can contain code that can lead to cryptojacking, and also recognizing those signs and reporting them in a very timely manner. Number three, you can use anti-crypto mining extensions. Cryptojacking scripts are generally deployed in web browsers like the tab nabbing we had spoke about earlier. So using browser extensions such as NoCoin, MinerBlock, Anti-Minder can be used to block crypto mining scripts that do possibly get into your network through phishing emails or client-side attacks. You can use ad blockers. Cryptojacking scripts are often embedded in web apps. So again, that's about browser security, which often include those ad blockers. And last but not least, you can disable JavaScript. When surfing online, disabling Java can help prevent cryptojacking code from infecting a computer if a malicious link is encountered and clicked on. And now I will turn things back over to AJay to talk to us about juicejacking.
All right, so a less common but still very real cybersecurity threat is called juice jacking. And yes, it sounds like a bodybuilding technique, but I assure you it is not. While juice jacking may not be headline news every day, understanding the risk is crucial for protecting your personal data. A lot of people believe that juice jacking is just a myth. And while widespread large-scale incidents are relatively rare, the potential harm is significant. So it's kind of like a low probability, high impact event. The risk is very real and the consequences can be severe. The key to understanding juice jacking is that USB ports, while primarily used for charging, are also designed to transmit data. Malicious actors can manipulate public USB charging ports to exploit this functionality. Setting up a compromised charging station is not overly complex. With readily available tools and knowledge, someone with malicious intent can easily turn a public charging port into a data stealing device. So this low barrier to entry makes it a viable attack vector. And here's the scary part. It's nearly impossible to tell if a public charging port has been tampered with just by looking at it. There are no visible signs, making it a truly stealthy threat. When you connect your phone or device to a compromised USB port, your data is at risk. This could include personal information, photos, contacts, banking details, or even access to your accounts. Imagine your entire digital life being compromised just by plugging in your phone to charge it. Beyond data theft, attackers can also use juice jacking to install malware on your device. This malware can cause serious damage to the device itself, and it can spread to other devices such as your laptop when you connect your phone to it. This is a serious threat to your entire digital ecosystem. The risk is particularly relevant when using public USB charging stations. Airports, hotels, and cafes are common locations for these ports. They offer convenience, but they also pose a potential risk. The safest approach is to avoid using public USB ports altogether. Carry your own portable charger or use an AC adapter to plug into a wall outlet. This is the simplest and most effective way to eliminate the risk. If you absolutely must use a public USB port, consider using a USB data blocker. This is an inexpensive device that prevents data transfer while still allowing charging. It essentially disconnects the data pins within the USB connector, ensuring that only the power lines are active. So it's a small investment for peace of mind. But using your own AC adapter and plugging it into a standard wall outlet is the safest public charging option. So make sure you always carry one of those with you. And I'll give it back to Jordan once more to wrap things up for us.
Thanks, AJ. So although this presentation is called Next Generation Cyberattacks, when it comes to defense and prevention, the main theme is really back to basics. Yes, there will be new technical solutions to each of these emerging threats, new software, new hardware tokens, new plugins, new extensions. But any defense is only as strong as its weakest link. And that's why we'll end by emphasizing that the most essential element of any InfoSec program is the people implementing it. Educating your employees, routinely testing your network, and maintaining a culture of vigilance and situational awareness are ultimately the surest ways of preserving your information security in an ever-evolving threat landscape. And with that, I will hand things back to Marissa.
All right, thank you all for joining us today. We hope you enjoyed the webinar, and now we're going to get into some questions. And feel free to drop additional questions as we go. So first up, someone asked if you could explain a little bit about how an AC adapter negates the juice jacking threat.
Yeah, I can take that one. So if you're using a standard USB wall charger, the kind with no data transfer capabilities, the risk of juice jacking would be eliminated. So AC adapters or any chargers that are purely for power without data transmission capabilities, they do not establish a data connection. So there's no way for malicious software to be transferred or for your personal data to be exfiltrated. So if you're using an AC adapter that just delivers power, you're likely safe from juice jacking. Yeah, so I mean, on the other hand, charging from public USB port that allows both power and data transmission is where the real risk lies.
Okay. So you mentioned using a web browser with built-in security features such as sandboxing and anti-phishing protection. Do you have examples of browsers you would recommend?
Yeah, there are several popular browsers that offer built-in security features like this. Google Chrome is known for its sandboxing technology, which isolates tabs and processes to prevent malware from spreading. It also includes Google Safe Browsing, which provides anti-phishing and malware protection. Mozilla Firefox also utilizes sandboxing to enhance security and offers enhanced tracking protection as a service, which helps block trackers and protects against phishing attempts. Microsoft Edge also uses sandboxing and incorporates Microsoft Defender Smart Screen to help protect against phishing and malware. And for more privacy-focused users, there is the Brave browser and Epic browser. They each come with built-in ad and tracker blocking, and they also contain anti-phishing and fingerprinting protection. And Epic comes with a free VPN.
Would a VPN help protect you in that, like when you're browsing? Is that give any extra security from that standpoint?
It's not, I mean, it's going to help you. So it depends on where exactly your information is being harvested. If someone is trying to harvest your information from a public router that they're on, yes, a VPN is going to stop that from happening. It's an additional layer of encryption that sends your traffic through a pre-encrypted tunnel. So, if someone's trying to get it from that perspective, if this is something like a client or server-side attack and you're entering your credentials into a malicious web page, it's not going to protect you from that because those credentials are going to go to that web page. So it's definitely a helpful thing to have. It's always smart to be on a VPN, especially on a public network. That's really essential. But you still do have to be careful about what you're clicking on and where you're inputting credentials, even if you are using a VPN.
Okay. All right, I got one more for you guys. So when it comes to cryptojacking, if someone's device is infected, can it damage the hardware, or is it just the processing power that it's eating up?
Yeah, the short answer is yes, it can damage the hardware. That's not the purpose of the attack. Cryptojacking is about stealing processing power so you can mine cryptocurrency. But by stealing that processing power and then overusing it, that's super high level of the use of compute, whether it's on a CPU or a GPU, it generates excessive heat and it prematurely ages and wears hardware, and therefore it shortens its lifespan. So it'd be like if someone, stole your car and drove it around the United States and then gave it back to you. Like the car wouldn't be totaled, but its lifespan would be diminished. And so, the point of the attack is not to damage your hardware, but it does, decrease its efficacy long term.
Okay, I did get another question here. Someone asked if you would trust a free VPN with your data from the Epic browser.
I would say, a free VPN versus a paid service, it's really kind of, they offer both of those things because not all institutions or individuals can afford enterprise level implementations of VPN. And, an individual person on their home network probably doesn't need enterprise level protection. But yeah, I would trust a free VPN. It's still providing that encrypted tunnel for your data to be transmitted, whether or not it's free or you're paying for a service. Would you agree with that, Jordan?
I totally agree, and I would even emphasize, like, probably what's universally regarded as the safest, network would be Tor, which itself is free, and it's just free because it's distributed. And so, like, the idea that a VPN is more secure because it's private, I don't know if that's necessarily true. That private VPN is just it's a single point of failure, whereas like Tor is widely distributed. So yeah, I think the free VPN thing is not a red flag.
Okay, and someone asked if a VPN can help against juice jacking.
No, because what's happening with the juice jacking is that there is you have plugged your device into a compromised USB port with a cable that transmits data. So it's not that you're sending your data from point A to point B through an encrypted tunnel. So think about like when you plug your phone into your computer, for example, and transfer like music and photos from your device to your laptop through that cable. That's different than connecting to a VPN and sending it, like over your corporate network or something to that effect. So the short answer is no.
Okay, let's see. It looks like that is all the questions we have for today. And if anyone comes up with additional questions that they'd like to ask after, feel free to shoot us an email and we will get those answered for you. But yeah, thank you guys for joining us today, and I hope you guys learned some more about the next generation of cyber attacks.
Thanks, everyone.